This is Marcia Burke with part 6 of the true Easter story about how Jesus Christ died on the cross and rose from the dead for you and for me. Last time we read about the breaking of bread, where two of Jesus' disciples were on their way to Emmaus, and as they walked along the road, Jesus joined them. However, they did not know it was Jesus who was walking with them and talking with them until they had invited him to their home. And as they sat down to eat, Jesus broke bread, and then their eyes became opened. It was at that moment they realized that Jesus was sitting amongst them. They immediately returned to Jerusalem, and they found 11 of his disciples gathered together. And they told them that indeed the Lord has risen from the dead. Today we will be reading about the taking of food. As they thus spoke, Jesus himself stood in the midst of them and said to them, "Peace be unto you." But they were terrified and much afraid, and supposed they had seen a spirit. And he said to them, "Why are you troubled? And why do thoughts arise in your hearts? Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me and see, for a spirit does not have flesh and bones, as you see me have." And when he had thus spoken, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they still did not believe for joy and wondered, he said to them, "Have you here any food?" And they gave him a piece of broiled fish and a honeycomb, and he took it and did eat before them. Then he said to them, "These are the words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that all things must be done that were written in the law of Moses, and in the prophets, and in the Psalms concerning me." He opened their minds so that they might understand the scriptures, and said, "Thus it is written, that it was necessary for Christ to suffer, and to rise from the dead on the third day, and that repentance and forgiveness of sins should be preached in his name among all nations, beginning at Jerusalem. And you are witnesses of these things." Thomas doubts. But Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. The disciples therefore said to him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see his hands, the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe." After 8 days, when the disciples were again in the room, and Thomas was with them, Jesus came to them, though the doors were shut, and stood among them and said, "Peace be unto you." Then he said to Thomas, "Reach out your finger and touch my hands, and reach your hand here and thrust it into my side, and do not be faithless, but believe." Thomas answered and said to him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Thomas, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are they who have not seen, yet have believed." This concludes our reading of part 6 of the true Easter story about how Jesus Christ died on the cross and rose from the dead for you and for me.